What's up everyone? This video is basically I would say an addition to my most recent video when I did the maintenance on the Montero for the valve cover gaskets, the spark plugs, and all that good stuff. So just a quick update. If you watched that whole video, it solved the issue. I didn't have the oil wasn't leaking from the valve cover gaskets, and I thought everything was good. We went on vacation for about 2 weeks and came back, drove again, went back driving to Montero for another week and a half. And then I started smelling oil again. It wasn't as strong, but very faint. And I didn't really think much of it from the top. I didn't see any leaking from the side previously. I saw there was leaking on the bottom, and when I checked and I kind of just looked up, it was leaking from towards the back of the driver's side cylinder head. I cleaned it all up, and I initially thought maybe it was the rear cam cover O-rings or seals, but it wasn't that. I started noticing after I cleaned it up and just letting the engine run for a while that it was leaking from the top and trickling all the way to the bottom, and eventually, getting the that part of the undercarriage wet. With like a mirror and everything, I checked. It's leaking from the back of the valve cover, and it's trickling down. I was kind of worried about it, and I kind of suspected that it was probably the valve covers. If you watched that last video, valve covers weren't necessarily in the best shape from the previous times I guess it got serviced. Now, you might be asking why I didn't have any issues when I got the Montero and did the initial maintenance on it. Well, we put a little bit of silicone. The reason we did that is my buddy told me that because of the valve covers, not the channels kind of being rough and possibly the valve covers being torqued down too much, this would probably prevent it from leaking. It would just seal any of the gaps that it wouldn't necessarily wouldn't seal if I just put the gasket on. And it did it. The Montero didn't leak for almost 7-8 years up until obviously late last year. I went ahead and just said, you know what, I'm just going to buy valve covers. I don't want to keep messing with these old ones, and they've been abused in a sense. So I'm heading to Mitsubishi right now to pick up my new valve covers. They're still available. Bought brand new left and right side. Hopefully this solves my issue. It should solve my issue. Okay, this is the current situation with the undercarriage on the Montero. As you can see, it's pretty wet here with oil. Dripped over there, oil right there. So what I'm going to try to do is zoom. Put some light so you can see the oil is coming. It's dripping from here on the top, and I actually diagnosed this last weekend. The oil is dripping from the top. I don't know here. Let's see if I can shed some light. So, I mean, I can't really focus here, but that's the rear cam cover. But basically, all I'm going to say is I traced the oil. I cleaned this all up. and got it all free of any type of oil. Ran Montero for about a day, and I noticed the oil is coming from the top of the cam cover, and further inspection with a little mirror, it's dripping from the valve cover in the rear. Um, so that's why I believe it's the valve cover, and I kind of had a suspicion it was. So it's pretty much just confirming it. All right, we got the valve cover out. Started with the driver's side valve cover right here. So this is the old one right here. So this is the one it's leaking toward in the back. So it's leaking over here, and I just pulled out this valve cover and took it straight out. And as you can see, because of the way these channels are, let me see if I can zoom in here. It wasn't sitting right. You can see there, you see where right here it's pretty flat and dry. Okay, I just took this out. It's wet here. See how it's wet? See how it's shiny? It's wet. And this right here didn't sit in the channel correctly. That they haven't sit correctly. It's not even it was supposed to sit like that, and it's not. It was sitting like this. So what I'm going to show you, I'm going to compare what the old valve cover looks like when I'm talking about these channels here. Let me remove the gasket here. So these are brand new, and from the last video, these are only like 2 weeks old, so these are pretty easy to take out. See, it's pretty wet here. If you see the shine. Oil was leaking. We're getting past. See, it's pretty dry up here. So I'm not going to reuse that. I already have a new valve cover gasket. So we're going to open up the new one, the new valve cover. So this is it. I got it from my my parts guy. I've been buying my parts from, even when I had the Gallants, or I still have the Gallants. I've been buying them since, oh my gosh, early 2000s. So this is the part number for the driver's side valve cover. It's Mary David. Let's see, Mary David 331652. This is the only solution if your old valve covers are bent. This is the only solution to pretty much solve it sealing correctly. So here's the new one. So just to show you here, clear difference, brand spanking new, the old one. So this is the rear here. Okay, obviously you can tell which is brand new and which is old. All right, so this is the channels where the gasket sits in, right? So this is the old one. I don't know if you can tell it. You can see right here, see that little dip? That's a little crease in the channel. There's another crease there on the channel. See here, you can tell right here. See, it's not straight. See the creases. So this is a product of two things. When they were doing the service on the valve cover, removing the, I don't know, the old valve cover gasket, it was really hard. So they're trying to pry it off, and it looks like they may have bent the channels here, trying to pry it off in different parts of the valve cover. And another thing too is if you tighten these valve covers too much, see that divot here where it's kind of bent out? So when you're tightening the bolt down here and it's pressing, right? So what's going to happen, those channels is going to open like this because you're putting too much force, which you can clearly see here. That's what it's doing on here. It looks like here too, because if we compare the new one, look how straight everything is. Straight, straight, no divot there, straight, straight, straight. This right here, I don't know if you can tell. Here's the old one. I don't know if you can tell in the camera. This is a little bit out, especially right here. It's out. This is more of a even corner. It's not pressed in. So you can tell this has been over torqued. Another way to tell if it's over torqued, you see how this it's kind of mushed in. It kind of goes in, and while the new one here is flat. This is a flat. This is flatter than this. I don't. It's hard to tell here. Here. I'm sure if you see it in person, this is more of a flat surface. This right here, it dips in. That means they were torquing the bolt previously too much, and obviously, because if it's metal, everything bends accordingly around it. So this is kind of bent in. This is flat. The new one's supposed to be flat, right? Over here, you see this is kind of coming out. This doesn't look, there's a little divot here. And this is the new OEM one. Let's see if we can do this better here. New OEM and the old ones in the back. Can you see the spot it there? Yeah, everything is even and straight on the new valve cover. All right, everything should go in. And another thing is, you'll know that if your valve cover channels are kind of out of shape, because see, when I'm putting these, it takes a little bit more effort to get them in the channels because the channels are tight. Whereas if they're not in shape and they're loose, they're it's easy to get the valve, the gasket in. So this takes a little bit of effort because the channels are tight. Yeah, just make sure everything is in, especially these corner spots. And another benefit too, that if your valve cover is in good shape, the holes for the gasket, they're going to line up to where they're at. If these are out of shape, I had this problem previously when I did the job, and even before, because the gasket doesn't fit tight and snug, it's loose and moving around, putting the bolting them in, um, you almost had to kind of finagle and try to get the bolt to get this gasket to line up before you can even bolt it into the cylinder head. See, if you look here, everything is spot on. Like if I show you, you can see right through. My biggest problem is where it leaked. I couldn't get that bolt to sit right. I had to like finagle it, and it made sense. That's why it was leaking from the rear. Um, it just didn't seal properly. So this is ready to go. So I'll go ahead and put it on the motor. All right, this is now the passenger side valve cover. All right, I already installed the driver side. So just so you guys can see, this is the passenger side. That's for the oil fill right there. So this one was leaking very lightly, not as bad as the driver's side. Also, this one suffered from previous times it's been worked on, the same fate as the driver's side valve cover. The areas where it was wet, right here, it's wet. That's where it was kind of leaking a little bit. This is towards the back of the firewall. Pretty much everything else is here is dry, so that means it was sealing pretty much correctly. But if you look, see these big gaps between the channel, and you see how the gasket kind of doesn't sit straight because of that divot there. They even tried, looks like this was pried at one point, the valve cover, to get it off. Looks like that's coming out. So this valve cover gasket is not sitting necessarily true, like straight, how it's supposed to. So I'm gonna go ahead and remove this valve cover gasket. Like I said, this is only like a couple weeks old, so typically if it's been on there for a while, it's gonna be a little bit harder because it's hardened, but this is only a couple weeks old. Sucks I'm not reusing it, I'm putting a brand new one, but it sucks because I have spent money on it. I mean, without comparing the new valve cover to this one, you can already tell, if you have any common sense, how bad this one is. See how crooked? This is not straight anymore. See all those grooves, these indents? It's no longer straight. The front here is not so bad. And this is where it wasn't really leaking at all. It was towards the rear. This is actually where the rear here. So this would be the front of the motor. This is the back, right? So this is the back of the motor. These are the vent pipes. This tube goes to the intake. This is a vent tube, goes to the other valve cover. So this is the back of the firewall. So like I said, I wasn't getting any leaks in the front. And if you look on the front, it's pretty straight. There's really minimal like damage. Now if I go to the back, that's when you start seeing these weird, see, not straight, not straight. This area right here is pretty bad. Big groove right here, here, and this is where it was leaking. No, it was leaking here, right up here. So this is the valve cover for the passenger side. So Mary David 324 962. Compare. So this is the old valve cover. This is the new one. Now pay attention on the channels just by looking at the difference. See how straight the new one is? Look how bad the old one is. That's going to cause sealing issues when the gasket, because now the gasket's not fitting securely in the channel how it's supposed to, right? So when you tighten the valve cover down, the gasket, it's going to move around, so it's not going to it's not going to seal correctly to the cylinder head, and that's it's going to happen. You're going to have leaks. When it's brand new, you might be able to get away with it because it's still soft, and it can form to the imperfections in a sense, but it's gonna prematurely start leaking. Let's just say it's supposed to last for, I think valve covers are supposed to last between, I don't know, 50,000 miles, I guess. I don't know. I'll put the right information if I'm wrong on the screen. But these will prematurely go bad because through time, the valve cover, the rubber starts to harden, starts to shrink. It's not as malleable. It won't conform to the imperfections, and then you're gonna get leaks. So that's what happened with my particular Montero. The valve covers, to be honest, prematurely started leaking. I should have gotten a lot more miles out of them, but because of this issue, that's the cause, right? So that's the importance of torquing down your valve cover gaskets, your valve covers properly, and trying to be very careful removing the gasket. If you're on the maintenance schedule, the gaskets shouldn't be hard enough to where they're hard to remove and you're doing this type of damage. They should be still soft enough for you to pull them out. If they're super hard, if you ever had any experience, I've had them before. When I had my Montero Sport, they were rock hard. Like when I was prying them off, the gasket was actually breaking in pieces. That is just way too long. You went way past the maintenance schedule replacing your gaskets. So that's the importance of doing maintenance on your vehicle, so you don't run into issues like this. And unfortunately, these are still available from Mitsubishi, the new valve covers. Unfortunately, I have to go back into doing the job, replacing them, and all that fun, right? All right, the new gasket is installed. It's nice and tight. It's straight. There's no play, right? Because there's no weird dents and abnormalities on the channel. So it's all straight. It's all even. I think it's a good thing. Putting on the new gasket took a little bit force, not too much force, a little bit to fit it in the channels. That lets you know it's tight and it's gonna stay straight. So look again, all the holes are lined up. They're not off centered. So this is ready to go. All right, I stated in the last video what the torque specs for the valve cover bolts are. There's 6 on each valve cover. Okay, they on the FSM it says 3.5 Newton meters, which is like 2 foot-pounds, 2.4 foot-pound torque. I had to find. This one is actually for bikes, so it actually goes all the way down to I think like 2 or 1 foot-pound. Anyways, this is the only one because all my other torque wrenches don't go that low. I will put a link in the description where I got this from. I got it from Amazon, and I'll provide the link to in the description where to get it. But yeah, this is what I use. I have it set at 3.5 Newton meters. Okay, so as you can see, it says Newton meters right there. Right, I believe there is a reference scale in foot-pounds over here. Right, but I'm going by Newton meters because it's easier to read for this, all right? But just to evenly um, distribute, I guess, the pressure to the valve cover, I'm going to start here and like basically a crisscross pattern. I'm going to go here, 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 right, then here, then here, all right, to tighten it down. So it shouldn't take that much. Actually, we'll do the first one here. Shouldn't take that much. There you go. It's tight. And then we just do it to the rest of the bolt. The new valve covers are on, nice and shiny, brand spanking new. Both sides. Put a new PCV valve. I washed
underneath the undercarriage where the oil is. Got some degreaser. Put that on, sprayed it on, and hit it with water. Washed the whole area. You know, just washed everything that the oil got onto, pretty much everything from there, and it would leak down to the front drive shaft that leads to the front diff. And then I just sprayed other stuff just to clean it up. So as you can see, it's freshly sprayed with water and clean. So I'm gonna let this dry. I'm gonna drive the truck for about a week. I should notice any oil leaks, if there is any, within a day or two. And then what I'll do is I'll report back in the video, and if it solves my issue, then it solves my issue. That's what it was. So put about a little over 110, 115 miles on Montero, going back and forth to work, picking up my kids and all that good stuff. So it's been through all the heat cycles. It should, by this time, I should know if there's an oil leak on the Montero. So we're gonna go ahead and check it out and check the top, see if there's any signs of oil leaks from the top. And then we're gonna go underneath and check the area underneath, behind the motor, down to the transmission bell housing where it was leaking before, and see if there's any signs of oil leakage there. Honestly, I believe there's no oil leak because there's no dripping or drips or oil stains on the floor at work and at the house. So I pretty much believe it solved the issue. But we're going to go and check it out so you guys can check it out, right? Here we go. Okay, this is the passenger side valve cover here. As you can see here, that is towards the front. That is the towards the middle. You can tell. And that's towards the rear. There. Yeah, it's pretty dry. There's no leaking from this valve cover. All right, this is the driver's side, and it looks dry. That little area right there, that's like towards the back of the cylinder head valve cover. It's dry. It is bone dry. So that's good. So now we're gonna check underneath. Okay, we are now underneath the Montero. I'm gonna shine some light here, and I don't know if you can see, it is dry. There is no signs of leaking oil anywhere. This was all wet previously, if you saw early in the video. It was leaking all the way to this front prop shaft. So if you see, it's all dry. It's not wet. This is all wet here from the oil just dripping down and splattering everywhere. I hope this video helps you out how important it is to torque these valve covers to factory specs and to properly do the preventative maintenance on the valve cover, especially on the valve cover gaskets. Now, those channels, the reasons why they're all jacked up is most likely is because I've dealt with this before. The valve cover gaskets, when they come, they can become really rock hard and very brittle when they're rock hard. And it takes a lot of force to try to remove them because they get stuck in the channels. I've dealt with these on like 4G63 valve covers, and it's not so much of an issue because the 4G63 valve covers are like a cast aluminum type of deal, so you can't really ruin the channels. Fortunately, these valve covers on the 6G7 series V6s for the Mitsubishis are like a stamped steel valve covers, and the channels are pretty thin. So when you're trying to remove it with a screwdriver or whatever to use the gaskets, that's what causes the channel to get jacked up, because it's really just what you saw, a thin piece of metal. So you got to be careful. And if honestly, if you're on top of the maintenance and replacing these valve cover gaskets and servicing them at the proper time, you won't have to do much damage, much force to remove them from the channel. It's simple as that. Not doing the maintenance, this is the result. You can jack up your valve covers, and then potentially you're going to have oil leaking issues like the original valve covers that came en route. They really tell a story. Previous owner did take care of the car, but I can't speak for if he did the work or she did the work, or if they took it someplace. And if they most likely took it from someplace, I mean, if they took it to someplace, probably didn't put the proper care that they needed to do with the valve cover, either because they didn't were lazy, didn't want to, or they're just not aware of that. So, again, hope this video helps you out as far as how important it is for these valve covers. These engines are very reliable, they're stout, and they'll last you a very long time. You just have to be on top of the maintenance of these motors. All right. If you have any questions, leave a comment below, and I'll be sure to answer them for you. But till then, guys, be safe, drive safe, and we'll see you in the next one.